Middle-aged man shaves his face, without forgetting, of course, and about the language. He is late for work, and the cup breaks at the wrong time, so you have to mix the coffee directly in yourself. This is Mr. Bean, and he has been working for many years. Security guard at the Royal National Gallery in London. The board of directors of the gallery only dreams of to fire him. But for some reason, Zabina always stands up for the chairman. The security guard proves his professional incompetence immediately. Fell asleep right on the post. We find out what's in Los Angeles, thanks to a donation of $50 million to the museum. A painting of Whistler's mother was purchased. Its presentation should take place in 2 weeks, from London to California. It is necessary to send the best specialist, scientist named, and one of the directors suggests Bina. At least this way they can get rid of him. Impressed by the false description of the pseudo-professor, curator from Los Angeles, David decides not only to take patronage over the British, but also to settle him at home for 2 months. David's wife Alison is shocked, but he convinces her that it will benefit their children. After all, this is the smartest person of our time. Also quite cute. Finn found out he was flying first class, which he immediately decided to brag about before the poor and the law of class. He clearly feels like a real king now. At the same time, David gets acquainted with the merch based on the purchased painting. These are posters of bath towels, t-shirts with caps, as well as glasses, earmuffs, and even a children's whistle. Boy on the plane, sitting across the aisle from Bean, puts it in a paper bag. At the same time, Bean wants to prank his neighbor in front, but bursts the bag. It doesn't work out of candy. Then he takes the boy's package and splashes vomit on the poor passenger. The entire family meets Bean at the airport. David suggests that he looks like Brad Pitt. Bean himself begins to wedge when he sees the police. And why does he pretend that he has a gun hidden in his jacket? The cops naturally approach him, and Bean can't think of anything better than try to escape from them. A bunch of guns are pointed at the dunce, and he takes out his gun and carefully places it on the floor. At the police station, Bean is checking. Is he taking any medications? On the spot, the family meets an Englishman, and within a minute, Alison demands from her husband so that this alien immediately gets out from their home. But he makes an impression on teenager Kevin, showing his ability to eat candy thrown into the air. After Bean goes to the kitchen to pick up his panties from the oven, David is still confident. What's eccentric? The Englishman's behavior is caused by his genius. Arriving at the gallery, the first thing Bean does is go to the toilet. Due to a faulty tap, wets his pants a lot. He solves the problem with a hand dryer, but then gets wet again below the waist. In this form, they bring him get acquainted with the management, so as not to get burned. Bean snuggles close to David, and then finds salvation at the fan. Organizational issues are still being discussed. Bean is only concerned with wet pants, and when they finally manage to dry, proudly show everyone their crotch. And only then will he know that he will need to speak at the presentation. Paintings with speech, and try to fit in. At about 20 minutes, the gallery director starts to suspect that in front of him is not a genius at all, and some kind of crazy, and draws David's attention that it was he who chose him. So if you have anything to answer him. The curator returns home with the guest, and when Alison finds out that the husband did not get rid of this strange guy, going right away, evacuate the building with the children. At her husband's persuasion, she was ready to give the Briton a chance, but he simultaneously breaks the photo of the spouses and a valuable crystal figurine. The wife left and the men were left alone so as not to get bored. David invites Bean to visit the newly opened Los Angeles Gallery, but he chooses to have fun at an amusement park. Bean immediately heads to the 4D attraction, but not receiving the promised fun, he decides to speed up, tweaking something on the control panel. The second race turned out to be much more extreme. People flew straight out and crossed. Bean was arrested again. In the interrogation room, he makes faces in front of the mirror, and David himself already doubts the adequacy of the British. Officer says, is it better to deal with bandits with AK-47 than with this psycho? That evening, David's boss comes to visit him with his wife, which he completely forgot about. I need to cook dinner urgently. The choice falls on a huge turkey, and it only takes 20 minutes to cook. Bean puts it in the microwave. As an appetizer, he offered the guests onion skewers. Then the microwave beep sounds and the turkey explodes and litters the whole kitchen, along with the Bean. David decides to have a frank conversation and finds out that Bean is not a doctor and has absolutely no understanding of art. Alison unexpectedly returns with the children, but then it turns around. Seeing Bean and the trash kitchen. After taking a shower together, David finds out that the painting has already been delivered. The curator is not impressed. Benji notes the beautiful frame. The security chief gives David one of two keys to the safe. Where will the artwork be stored? As the gallery owner leaves, he asks Bean to stay, to be inspired by a picture for a speech. Bean comes close to her and sneezes, right in the hysterious mother's face, wipes his drool with a handkerchief, but it turned out to be stained with ink. Bean takes down the painting in a panic and spits right in the face of the painted woman. And eventually brings it to the pantry to remove ink with solvent. It works out for him, but of course, at the same time, the paint on the painting itself dissolves. The bandage finishes what it started, simply by washing the mother's head and clearing it up with a rag. Returning back, he's trying to barricade himself, but David easily enters the room and sees what his friend did with the painting. Oh my god. Alas, Papanovsky's restoration failed. David almost misses a punch. He is completely shocked, but there's nothing to do. The painting has been returned to its place. Fellow sufferers, out of despair, went to a bar for a drink, and there David confesses to Bean that he ruined his whole life drunk. They are returning home, where Allison and the children also returned, and now she is threatening to leave her husband completely. Bean is upset, doesn't sleep and sits in the kitchen. Kevin comes up to him and tells him that he can't sleep because he constantly thinks about naked women, and offers for an Englishman to look at the Cindy Crawford poster. And then it dawns on our hero. How can everything be fixed? He's arming himself. A strange set of objects with chewing gum, varnish, eggs with a whisk, hairdryer and brush, also taking a flashlight and panties. He skateboards back to the gallery to get rid of the guard. Wins pours a whole packet of laxative into his coffee and hides the keys to the toilet. The guy immediately begins to burst, so restoration operation has begun. Bim took the picture, cut out the canvas using chewing gum, stuck a regular poster of my mother to the frame, mixed protein with clear varnish, and covered the poster with this composition. Having achieved the desired texture, Bean returns the painting to its place, and the poor guard, still not finding the right key, just knocks down the toilet door. This morning, David woke up with a headache, and his daughter Jennifer left with some biker. Bean is shining and tries to tell the curator about his trick, but he always shuts him up. To the gallery, they arrive almost simultaneously with the general philanthropist, who paid for the purchase of Wister's mother. He makes a speech and solemnly presents the painting. Everyone is delighted, and David can't believe his eyes. Bean confesses, "What is this poster?" But it's too early to relax. It's time to make a speech. He is asked to meet the deadline. Bean says the picture is big, and that's good, otherwise no one would have seen her. Also reports that it shows a nasty old wallet, which the artist, nevertheless I loved it very much, and found the time to paint her portrait, which is a symbol of family. Everyone really liked the speech, but David's joy was darkened by the news that his daughter had an accident. He and the Bean are racing in the hospital behind a police car, but the officer had to stop to apprehend a criminal. A shot is heard. Hospital. Bean sees a guard whose health was undermined. Jennifer lies unconscious in the room. Bean picks up the doctor's drop stethoscope, and he is mistaken for a surgeon. Now he needs operate on a patient with a gunshot wound. It turns out to be the well-known BNUKOP. Doctors call to provide emergency assistance to another patient, and the Englishman remains with him one-on-one. Bean decides to eat some candy, but she falls right inside the cop. Digging into their insides, the Brit takes out a bullet, but that's not what he needed, so he screws it back in. But he washes the candy and eats it. All these manipulations are true, bring the cop's health to critical condition. IBN manages to save his life at the last moment, because he knows. Where exactly did he put the bullet? In the corridor, David already mistakes him for a doctor and asks to examine his daughter. Bean tries to wake up Jennifer and then takes the defibrillator. It saved the girl that the device was turned off. Bean himself is thrown onto her bed, and Jennifer comes to her senses. Overjoyed parents promise to thank the doctor, as he wants. Ben takes off his mask and asks to stay with his family for another week. He's having a great time. Sightseeing. Being photographed. Learns how to greet in Californian. Each family member receives a gift. Bean and the boy try on each other's style. He leaves his family on good terms. In an aeroport, says a touching goodbye to David at his home in London. Now the entire wall is covered with photographs of his new friends, and opposite the original of the famous painting Florence, Wister's mother,